Greetings to all of you who are listening to this webinar on the Philippine economy. Probably uncharacteristically, I will start with the bad news. So, if we consider economic development as a race, in the sprint for 2021, let's say the 100-meter dash, the Philippines is going to be left behind by practically all of our neighbors. We are not going to recover that quickly this year, 2021, because of the way we have not managed very well the pandemic in comparison with Singapore, with Vietnam, etc., etc. So I don't expect the growth rate for 2021 to exceed, let's say, 4%. Although some people are more optimistic, they're talking about 6, even 8%. I think in the first semester, we will continue to have a lot of uncertainties. Second, third waves of new varieties of the virus, and so on and so forth. And I don't think we will have priority in getting the vaccine. So if at all, probably the vaccine will be widely available only towards probably the last quarter of this year. So I suggest to business people to continue to make use of 2021, to make the necessary adjustments to the new reality. I don't want to call it new normal. I think that expression is not adequate. The reality that will be upon us by 2022. In 2021, businesses will have to continue fine-tuning every technology related to the digital world that is indispensable in the new reality. The way we educate people will definitely incorporate a lot of blended learning. The way we meet like this is going to be permanent. Although we may go back to the office, we will continue to depend a lot on digital technology, which means that every organization, whether for profit or not for profit, should continue to fine-tune their technology, their infrastructure, their ability to use whatever digital technology is available. And the same thing I must say about the whole area of logistics. So once again, let us be resigned to the fact that dining will not go back to what it was formerly. A lot of people will now order their food and will resort to takeouts. Dining in will be the exception. And that means that you will have a great need to improve the so-called supply chain, delivery, logistics, warehousing. So let's make use of 2021 to perfect the supply chain in every possible sector where we know it will be indispensable, whether in food, whether in medicine, whether in even ordering bicycles, etc. Even the hard goods will now be partly ordered online. Then what we will at least see in 2021 is we will be given a pause in inflation. So at least that's the good news. Inflation will be kept to close to 2%. So at least our purchasing power will not be as challenged. The good news is found in a few sectors. Obviously, overseas workers continue to be a major source of our purchasing power. In fact, I'm so impressed by the fact that in 2020, despite 300,000 workers being forced to come back, the decline in remittances for the whole year, believe it or not, is less than 1%. So which means we almost kept at the same level the remittances that we had in 2019. And I see that the area where we can be very optimistic for 2021 is the rebound of overseas workers. In fact, I know that there are already German, Japanese organizations that are sending language tutors to the Philippines to teach nurses, caregivers, educators, either the German language or the Japanese language. So they are poised to import a lot of our workers this year. So that is a good news. We will definitely maintain our remittances from our workers. Another very good news, obviously, will be in the area of health and maintenance. A lot of expenditures, starting from the government and from the private sector, will be channeled towards keeping us healthy, both preventive and curative. And I see that in education, there will be a tremendous set of innovations getting people to acquire new skills, but not through the route of formal education. I'm afraid formal education will take a hit. A lot of people will not enroll in the courses that they used to study in, but a lot of people will be looking for short courses that will immediately equip them with skills that can make them employable. So even webinars like this will be in great demand. Program or 2-year master's program, those are not going to be that much in demand. Now, the most important area where we have to spend as much time as possible in 2021 to prepare for the recovery in 2022 is agriculture. So we have to make sure that at all the levels of agriculture, farming, warehouse, harvest, cold storage, processing. So let's always think of agribusiness rather than agriculture as the number one sunrise industry. It's very obvious that during the pandemic, we realized how important food is because it's the first necessity. And that is where we must give all the support, especially to a very good Secretary of Agriculture, in Secretary Dar, to make sure that we are going to attain the objective of higher agricultural productivity and lower costs in all the other areas of agribusiness. So that is an area where by 2022, I see agriculture growing probably at 3% and food manufacturing growing at double-digit rates, 10 to 12%. And hopefully, we will be able to produce enough for our population of 110 million and a surplus so that we can compete with Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia in supplying the biggest market in the world for food, which is China. So we have to be already resigned to the fact that China is going to be the most powerful economy now and in the future. And despite some of disagreements we may have with certain Chinese policies, we cannot ignore China as the biggest market. Obviously, we will continue to be very much related to the US economy. Our second biggest sector, which is the BPO IT sector, is very dependent on the US market. And I don't think there'll be any problem there, especially with a more friendly Biden government as regards trade. I can say about 2021 and 2022, I'll be very glad to answer questions during the open forum.